The fact is that in this second iteration of Trump in power, he has, from Project 2025, a plan really to be able to change the form of government in the United States. And instead of having checks and balances, the rule of law, to have a more authoritarian, strongman approach. And the idea that somehow the Democrats are for crime and for lawlessness is straight out of the playbook of fascists across the world.
Mr. Vickery, that is
Going
that
on.
is outrageous.
No,
That is
that's
such a
not outrageous.
misrepresentation of things.
That's the
You want
truth.
you tell people to look at the video. How about people look at the video of Charlie Kirk's neck opening up on TV, being assassinated by a leftist? How about you look at the video of illegal immigrants?
So, has Trump declared war on Americans, as Democrats put it? Let's put that question to our guest. Joining me on Global Pulse tonight, a warm welcome to Raymond Vickery, who has been a regular on this show. Raymond Vickery is the former United States Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Trade Development. He's also Senior Associate at Center for Strategic and International Studies. He is a strong Trump critic. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thanks very much, Mr. Vickery, for joining us. We also have a Trump supporter on the show, Alexander Terraccio. He's a pollster at Signal Polling and Analytics. He's also a global political strategist, also joining us live from the American Capitol. Welcome, gentlemen, to Global Pulse. Raymond Vickery, let me begin with you. Democrats say Trump has declared war on Americans who are now facing ICE terrorism, as well as political intimidation on a scale that's unprecedented in American history. In fact, they go so far as to say that American democracy itself is under threat. What do you make of the developments that we've seen on the ground in Democrat-run cities in recent weeks?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I'm afraid you've encapsulated the situation here very well with your remarks. The fact is that in this second iteration of Trump in power, he has, from Project 2025, a plan really to be able to change the form of government in the United States. And instead of having checks and balances, the rule of law, to have a more authoritarian, strongman approach. And every strongman needs an other alien in which to blame things. And the Trump approach is to take immigration and immigrants as being the other that has to be guarded against. Unfortunately, he's learned from his first administration and that there are people in law enforcement, in the military of the United States who adhere to the Constitution. President Trump, had an oath to preserve and protect and defend the Constitution. But instead of doing that, he's opted for the strong man approach and being able to send troops into Democratic cities, claiming that there are realities which just don't exist. Nobody says that crime isn't a problem in urban areas. It is throughout the world. It is also the case that in urban areas you have people who are more liberal in terms of government services. They tend to elect Democrats. But then Trump makes the irrational approach that it's the Democrats which are causing the crime, and that's just not the case. The reality which he has said existed in the District of Columbia was really made up. In fact, attendance at restaurants and other events in the evening went down when the Trump troops were here. So we're in a very, very grave danger, and it really is the first time in American history that the President of the United States has used the military and police powers to try to go in and silence his critics, to take over functions which are traditionally local government and in the past Republicans have been in favor of, and try to move us in a direction of strong man authoritarianism. And we very much hope that throughout the world, Democratic adherents will come to our aid and support. And this is very much needed at this point in the United States.
You know, I've been a journalist a long time, and this is the first time that I've actually heard an American saying that the world should come to our rescue and save American democracy. All these years, we've only heard Americans lecturing the rest of the world on democracy and how to hold free and fair elections and the rest of it. I guess these are strange times indeed. Let me take this to Alexander. Alexander, you heard Raymond Vickery. You've also heard what other Democrats have been saying for weeks and months now. That when you unleash your military on your own people within the country's borders, as opposed to fighting an external or foreign enemy, then what you are doing is essentially a march towards fascism and authoritarianism. Also, how is it that according to Trump, all the problems related to crime and illegal immigration exist only in democratic cities?
I think that the picture painted of the United States would indeed be a very dire one if that picture was true. Unfortunately, it is not. Very little of what has been said is an accurate characterization of what is happening or why the Trump administration is sending federal troops, federalized National Guard troops, to Democrat-run cities. This idea that American democracy is in danger because of this really makes me smile. Donald Trump was elected more than any other issue on illegal immigration. He has already stopped border crossings from illegal immigrants, something that I have never seen in my lifetime and that we were told was impossible, that has effectively gone down to zero. He has since turned his attention to interior enforcement. That means looking at the 14 some odd million people who do not have legal status to be in the country and deporting them, starting with the high priority criminals. But everybody on that list, every one of those 14 million people, should not be in this country. He has a mandate to deport them, and that's what he's doing. For decades, Democrat run cities have had sanctuary city policies, which means they do not cooperate with federal officials like ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, on deporting any illegal alien in their city. And so naturally, illegal immigrants are not stupid people. They're smart. They go to where they're going to find work in cities, and they go to where they are not going to be deported. And so that's why you see more of them in Portland and in Chicago and in Los Angeles. That's where they are. Those are the target populations. So Donald Trump was elected democratically to carry out the will of the American people in reducing the illegal immigrant population. Local officials, Democratic officials in those cities, do not want to cooperate with the Trump administration. And they go so far as to foment mobs to stand outside ICE facilities and stop them from processing immigrants. This culminated in a sniper shooting, trying to kill ICE agents, and killed several illegal immigrants who were being processed by ICE agents who had to protect the remaining ones. There have been terrorist cells. Initially, when you said ICE terrorism, I thought you were talking about terrorism against ICE, because there has been attacks on ICE agents from gunmen across this country, though I don't believe in Chicago or in Portland specifically. That is a very challenging problem for the federal government. Should they let these mobs stand outside and allow protests to elevate into riots and stop them from enforcing the law? If they did, then we would be in a lawless country. They say no. I agree with that. I'm glad that they say no. And so they bring in reinforcements so that they can protect themselves and their agents and the immigrants they're processing so that they can carry out their lawful orders. That is what you've been seeing. Normally, in Tennessee, in Kentucky, in Texas, the federal government goes to local governments and they ask for help. And the local police come and help. There's 10,000 some odd police in Oregon who could come and help. Has that happened? No. The governor has refused to let them help. And so the federal government has to rely on its own people. They can bring in FBI, they can bring in Border Patrol, even though Oregon is not at a border, or they can bring in the National Guard. It's simply a way to get people to come and protect ICE agents while they are carrying out their lawful mission. And so that's why this whole conversation makes me smile, because at no point has there been any discussion of the context of ICE agents actually being shot at. And at no point is there any actual discussion of why they need more people. It's not to militarize these cities, it's because they need bodies. And there's a lot of available human beings, a lot of men in the National Guard and women who can come and protect these agents as they carry out lawful orders. But J.B. Pritzker wants to be president. And the way that he's going to elevate his personal political profile is by starting a fight with the Trump administration. And a small section of the Democratic base will reward him for doing that. And so this is about him wanting to be president. It's about Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, wanting to elevate himself out of one of the worst approvals of any mayor in any major American city. And they are going to be rewarded by voices that want them to fight. Meanwhile, regular people in these cities love that having the National Guard around and having more federal soldiers around means that crime goes down. It means that Uber drivers can do their job without getting carjacked, including many immigrants, by the way. And so I think the conversation's very amusing, but also quite dire, that Democrats do sincerely believe this. They're not lying. They think this is the case. They think that there is fascism coming to these cities, and it's simply a lie. That is not true. That's not what the administration is trying to achieve.
Okay, you say the Democrats are lying about the situation being dire and American democracy being in danger. What the Democrats say is that Donald Trump is lying through his teeth when he says that a city like Portland is a war zone. And as a response to that, we've also seen very unique protests being staged by the residents of Portland, many of them, dressed in costumes as dinosaurs, frogs, and bears, dancing to loud music on the streets to prove the Trump narrative wrong, to prove that no, this is not a war zone, not a city that's been overtaken by crime. I'll come back to you, Alexander, in just a moment, but let me put those points that you've raised to Raymond Vickery. Raymond Vickery, Alexander and other Republicans who support Donald Trump's actions, even if you believe these are strongman tactics, say that essentially Donald Trump is carrying out his mandate. He was elected democratically, primarily on the poll plank of cracking down on illegal immigration. Therefore, what he is doing is to fulfill his poll promise, and because the Democrat governments and governors and mayors are not cooperating with ICE agents, and there have been multiple instances of ICE agents coming under attack. That is the reason why Donald Trump felt the need to deploy federal troops. The idea at the end of the day is to not allow American cities to descend into chaos. Alexander says we can't have rioting on the streets, therefore you need these troops. How would you respond to that?
Well, the American people did not elect Donald Trump to trample the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and due process. What he was elected for was to bring order to the borders. He was not elected to have measures which are anti-foreigner that go beyond those which are criminals in the United States. There were on the table ways and proposals and even legislation to be able to resolve the crisis within the parameters of the United States Constitution and existing laws. Donald Trump, as a candidate, torpedoed those efforts which I might say were bipartisan and led by some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate. He wanted to keep the issue alive. This is the tactic of a strong man, of an authoritarian since time immemorial, to try to find some scapegoat, some other that you can blame problems on. The idea that we are not in a crisis and that this is created is completely contrary to fact. President Trump has been the greatest in our history at concocting an alternative reality which does not exist. And you don't have to believe me or Democrats. All you have to do is look at what the video is showing is happening in the cities. All you have to do is look at the court cases in which courts have ruled that there is no emergency going on. It's not something that people are making up. It's not something which is not occurring. And the idea that somehow the Democrats are for crime and for lawlessness is straight out of the playbook of fascists across the world.
Mr. Vickery, that is outrageous.
No,
That is
that's
such a
not outrageous.
misrepresentation of things.
The
You want
truth.
you tell people to look at the video. How about people look at the video of Charlie Kirk's neck opening up on TV, being assassinated by a leftist? How about you look at the video of illegal immigrants diving to the floor seeking safety with ICE agents protecting them because there's yet another Democratic gunman who's trying to murder them?